Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope you had a nice weekend. And I know I did. I guess if you're like me, sometimes I think back, what did I do over the weekend? I'm sure I did something. I know I did some work because I'm ready for class. And I hope you did some work and you're ready for class today. Today is a kind of a wrap-up day. So I don't think it's going to be too challenging. There will be some new material that we discuss. And this is wrap up chapter 16. This is actually today, I think I hear a faint applause in the background. This is finally we're wrapping up the engineering economy portion of the class. So about 1/3 in, I guess, and after today, we will have dispensed with most of that. Although the last class or two has also been finance related. We're going to look a little bit more today at loans, at paying off loans. We'll look a little bit more at different kinds of loans, a few things about applying for loans, maybe we're going to revisit a couple of things for a very short period of time. And then after today, beginning Thursday, we move to chapter 1 and chapter 6. And those topics are strictly really finance related. We're going to look at financial statements. We'll look at balance sheets, income statements. We'll look at performance measures related to the numbers that are represented in those documents. And once again, in that material as well as this, this class, I'm not telling you anything you haven't detected already, but this class, seemingly has nothing to do with the reason that you're studying construction. It seems far removed from actually doing that sort of job, the things that you were interested in and why this is your major. And yet these topics are critical to the success of the organization, whether it be your own entrepreneurial business or whether it be part of a larger organization. These are the things that make it a viable organization. And whether we like it or not, these are the things when you get into meetings and as you move up the food chain in your organization, these are the things that people talk about more and more and more, because they are critical to the survival of the and prosperity of the organization. So enough pontificating there. I do have some other announcements that I want to make before we dive into the material today. First of all, I am doing a different recording scheme, and I'm recording to my computer instead of to the cloud, and then I have to wait for that to do whatever it does, and I upload it. It has to do whatever it does, and so I hope that the video is still working okay. Later today, my plan is to also upload those videos, the most recent ones, and slowly get to the other ones, to my YouTube channel. And you'll find there's a bunch of older videos from an engineering economy class I taught. I don't know, this is 6 or 7 years ago. So you can dispense with those and get right to the meat of this class. Okay, so that's coming. Next Thursday is the midterm. That's October 8th. I think sometime I might have said 10, but you all aren't going to show up on a Saturday to take a midterm. And I just want to say that I'm still working on Mitch, and Mitch probably will be the greater dictator of the way we're going to handle that test, because I trust his judgment. And so he and I are both, we're conferring on exactly the format that test is going to take. Rest assured that whatever the format is, it will be doable in the block of time that we have for class. We will not hold class session on that day, on October 8th. We will not meet, but that 75 minutes that we have for class, we'll set aside for the test. Now, you don't have to take the test during the class, during 8 to 9:15 on Thursday, October 8th. I will set it up somehow so that you'll be able to take it whenever you wish to take it. I would say at your leisure, but I don't think anybody would claim that a test is leisure. So anyway, it's going to be, you can take it during the time frame of the class and treat it just like I'm going to class and take a test. That's fine. But I'll make it more flexible in some fashion so that you can take it at another time. There will be a window. It's not like you take it whenever you want. You can take it when you wish within a particular time window. That will include the class period, so as an option. So that's coming up. I will post I'll call it a study guide. It's not a guide. It's just be maybe bullets for the most important stuff that you should know. It will be over primarily the engineering economic information that we've covered, and on the loans and financing issues that we've covered in the last 2 or 3 class periods, and closing out today. So what we start on Thursday, the financial statements, understanding financial statements, looking at performance measures like quick ratios and things like that, debt to equity, things like that. Those will not be on the test. So after today, you should have all the material that you need to perform well on the test. We'll talk about this again next Tuesday and make sure everybody's on board and get your questions answered. If you have specific questions about your preparation for this test, feel free to email me or shoot me a text or something like that. I'll be happy to get back to you. There was some other thing that was on my mind. I didn't write it down. Just 15, 16, and 17, those chapters. That's it. That's the beef right there. And so you can study those, read those, commit them to memory, know how to work all the problems. There's my advice. Know everything, and you'll be in good shape, I think. All right. Next Monday, I know you all have I'll call it a career fair. I don't think that's the official name, but I know that's coming up next Monday. And I hope that, I wish we'd been able to cover some of the things we're going to cover Thursday, maybe a little bit sooner if I'd have been more on the ball. But, some questions from the financial condition of the company might be something good to ask some of these organizations. They might see you as savvy to the business world. So anyway, we'll be able to pick up some of that stuff on Thursday. I have posted a new schedule on Canvas. If you haven't seen that, I encourage you to do so. It's up to date as of right now today, and we'll be able to, I'm hoping we stick to this. I did notice as I was building it again, shuffling some things around, that it is an aggressive schedule. very aggressive to try to complete all these things, especially in an online environment where I get to just bleat continuously in lecture, but that doesn't make it easier for you to comprehend. So I sometimes feel like you know it's just not nearly as easy to get things covered. So we'll see how that goes. If I see the need for an adjustment, we'll adjust it again. I want to be as give you as much opportunity to be prepared for class and know what material we're covering as you can. Mind just the hamster is running as fast as he can, and sometimes also note that I added a column that has the chapters that we're covering, so you can and I would encourage you. You've heard this story before. The best recipe for success is being better prepared when you come to class. So if you can read those chapters before we cover them in class, you may not understand everything, but you will have seen it. It will have crossed your mind, and when I speak about it, maybe things will clarify and the fog will lift much more quickly. And it's possible that you read through there and it all makes perfect sense to you. And then I know that I'm sure that some of you, 8 o'clock class, you're in doze mode, or you're eating breakfast, you're chowing down on some Hostess powdered sugar donuts or something because you didn't get to Carol Lee's. So whatever it is that you do, maybe it'll just make class easier. So I encourage you to read ahead of time. Also for class, this is for class next time, I will be posting a spreadsheet and a little exercise. Now we're going to go through this exercise a bit. I'm not sure how far we'll get actually, but maybe in class. It's not for points or anything like that. It's just to get you familiar with the process, because there will be homework questions on these financial statements and analyzing financial statements. So that's for next time. One final comment about the homework. We have homework due noon tomorrow. That's noon, not midnight. Noon. I don't do this midnight stuff. You'll notice as we go along during the semester, you may not like it or agree with me, but I am really a Benjamin Franklin kind of guy. And Benjamin Franklin said, "Early to bed, early to rise makes a man or woman." This was back in the 18th century. Makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, it's not a promise there. It's not a guarantee. But so I'm always try to encourage you to get to bed early. You're going to get up early, especially class Thursday morning. I don't want you up partying and doing homework into the late into the night on Wednesday. So anyway, enough of that. Wednesday noon, 12:05 p.m. actually is when it's due. I gave you a little bit of slack there. Don't forget that homework is due. And my comment about it is precision. Now, I have tossed pennies away and been proud of it, actually, when we have solved problems in this class, which is fine, I think, especially, we're not going to worry about pennies. We would worry about pennies were they important. But rounding at the end doesn't mean when you're solving a problem, you should round all the way through the problem and round off and use that rounded off number as input to another formula and round that off, and that becomes input to something else. And that gets to your final answer that you round off again. That loss of precision along many steps stacks up. And in quality control, we call it tolerance stack. And you get enough things that are barely in tolerance, but you combine them all, each one individually, barely in the tolerance range, and pretty soon you have something out the back end that doesn't work. So precision is critically important during the solution process, and you need to maintain the levels of precision, many decimals, in your calculations as you move along. Don't get a sub answer and round it off and plug that in for something else and round that off. It will lead to you getting answers that are outside the range that I've allowed for the answers in the homework. And some of you have experienced that. And so anyway, I think I made my point. Do not round. Carry a bunch of precision all the way through. At the very end, you can round it off. You can chop off pennies. I don't suggest you chop off dollars, but we could do that if we wanted to. But that is at the very last step, the very last thing. You don't want to leave the impression that you really know things down to the penny level, because we don't. And all of these, we've talked about cash flows, and certainly when you have a contractual agreement with cash flows, you know exactly what they're going to be. Otherwise, if we're making estimates of future cash flows, we're going to be off. But when you make an estimate, make sure you use it with precision, and you stick with that. So enough of that, I think. Okay. Here we go. I want to revisit something that is on the homework because it can be confusing. And I covered this in the solution video to a certain extent, and I'd like to expand on that just a little bit. Here, briefly, I'm going to spend at most 10 minutes, I hope less, speaking about this. And this is how much, and I'm doing this because I've gotten a number of questions about this, and I just want to make sure it's clear. And this is related to, I've made X number of payments on this loan. How much do I owe now? And at some point, you may have a car loan and you're paying on this. Please don't. But if you do, and you're paying on this loan, and you'd like to know, gee, I've got some money. If I could pay this off today, could I pay it off? How much do I owe? How much is left on the loan? And of course, you can call your financial institution and have them figure that out and tell you what that is. If you're like me, you try to get a hold of these folks and it just takes forever. You can figure it out yourself. And so we have questions on the homework that are related to that. I want to switch over and look at the look at a cash flow diagram, cash flow diagram very quickly, and then I want to switch to an Excel spreadsheet that I'm going to switch to our mortgage spreadsheet, and we'll do a calculation. We'll do it very quickly, and you'll see how it matches up with the mortgage spreadsheet, which is, remember, that's the brute force. Everything's in there. This is the way that the sausage is made kind of spreadsheet, and we'll see how we can easily solve that problem. We don't have to use a spreadsheet, but we'll match it up with the spreadsheet results. So let me start by looking at a cash flow diagram. I'm frozen again. It's interesting. I need to run that once as some sort of trial before class. There we go. Okay. So here's the problem. Remember, we're running along. We have a P, which is a loan amount. This is how much we borrowed. And we have an interest rate, some interest rate, I. And we're going to chug along with these payments, A, all along. So our payments are, this is how much we're paying on this loan over time. And we're chugging along, and we're going all the way out here to N, whatever N is, right? We've got N payments out here. And the problem that we're discussing is, okay, after this X, that's a hard word to say, X payment, how much do we owe on the loan? So we've made this payment here, whichever one that is. And now we're going to start with our from here on are the payments that remain, and we want to know how much do we owe. Well, this is an economic equivalence question, and that is, since these payments are all loan-related payments, we want to know the present value of these future payments. If this is time X, so this is N minus X payments, loan payments. We know what they are. We calculated them. That's what we owe every period on the loan. And the present value of those is the economically equivalent amount of those N minus X payments. And it's the P, of course, is one period prior to the first A. We know that. So that's right at the time of that last payment that you made. Now you might be thinking, well, how do I know that this present value that I find from that really is how much I owe? Well, we found these A's, all of these A's are economically equivalent to this P. And so this P is going to be economically equivalent to these remaining A's. And so all we have to do is take our payment, whatever our monthly, in this problem, our monthly payment is, and we need to say, okay, there are N minus X of those. We know what the interest rate is. So that's a number of periods, the interest rate. Here's our A. We know what A is. It's that monthly payment. And we're looking for the present value of those. So that's the picture, if you will. And now let's look at that spreadsheet quickly. And there's the spreadsheet. Remember the spreadsheet? We had it in class last time or time before. And this, remember, represents our monthly payments. There's what our monthly payment is. I got to remember that's in cell B4. Let's remember that it's in cell B4. To remember it before B4 we forget it. Sorry. So here we go, and this keeps track of what we owe every month. So we ought to be able to calculate this balance, how much we owe at the end of a certain number of months, right? So let's go down here, and so this was a $250,000 loan, and let's go down here to 120. Let's go here. This is 10 years in, right? At this point, after the 120th payment, that's 12 months per year, 120, 10 years. So we've paid, this is a 30-year loan. So we paid on this for 1/3 of the loan period, or 10 years. We want to know how much we owe. Well, in fact, we owe $206,352.48. Well, if we use the concept I just talked about, we should be able to calculate that number very easily, and it's the present value of that monthly payment that's up there in B4, our monthly payment of I guess it's 1419.47. There it is right there. I didn't even need to remember B4. And so we have 240 of those remaining, right? We made 120. There's 360 total payments. We've made 120. There are 240 payments left. So let us calculate, using that P given A, calculate how much we owe. And we're going to use the PV function because that's the function to use, the present value. And the rate, what is the interest rate? Well, you might remember, you may not remember, we labeled, the interest rate is way up here at the top of this spreadsheet. And the interest rate, I think it was 5.5%. And it's given as the APR, and we needed the monthly rate. So the interest is the 5.5%. We labeled it as such. But we need to divide it by 12 to get the monthly interest rate, the monthly rate. So I'll do that. That's our interest rate. It's the same interest rate we had when we found the A's. Number of periods is going to be 240. There are 240 periods remaining. And the payment, our payment amount, the monthly cash flow is this 1419.47. And it should be that when I hit return, boy, I hope this works. When I hit return, I should get $206,352.48. Let's keep our fingers crossed here. There we go. Nothing up my sleeve, proof positive. There we have it. So we can calculate how much we owe using just a simple PV function. Just it's a present value of those remaining payments. And of course, you can find it with brute force using a spreadsheet like this, but it's so much easier just to calculate it. Okay, I hope that is somewhat helpful. Let me see, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to stop sharing. Okay. Another thing I wanted to look at briefly is just to remind you, now you have this in your book, and I don't know how this is gonna work because I don't have Zoom on my camera. This may turn out to be a very poor, very weak thing to do. We'll see. I want to talk about closing costs. Somebody talked about closing costs before, and I said, gee, I wish I had I was going to get out my closing cost document. Well, you know, I still haven't done that, but I will resort, since I wanted to talk about this briefly, I will resort to the table that's in the book. I wanted to show you something different, just to get something different. It looks a lot like what's in the book. This is, I'm sure you've seen it. Yeah, you're not going to be able to make heads or tails of this, I don't think. Here, this is the part I'm talking about here. This is good faith estimate. It's oh, you can't see that anyway, but oh yeah, you can. Good faith estimate at the top. This is, you would see something if you purchase a house. You'd see this stuff, all this stuff in there. And these are considered closing costs. These are payable in connection with the loan, and all of the items in here would qualify under this we talked about closing costs last time. These qualify under the closing cost category. And you can see there's a loan origination fee. And I think I talked about that a little bit. This is where you can you can buy down the rate of your loan. I'm sorry, that's points. Loan origination fee is not. It's just a standard fee to do the loan, to make the loan. So they're charging you 1% of the loan amount to do that. The appraisal fee is they have to do an appraisal on your home, make sure that they're not loaning $75,000 on something that's worth 30. Then do a credit report. By the way, these appraisal fees are double that around here anyway, easily. Then you've got all these processing fee. Now, we don't know what the heck that is, but it's $200. Underwriting fee is to pay somebody to click a button on a computer. Document preparation fee is to print out something, probably. And courier fee, because they have to move stuff quickly. All these items are thrown into the closing cost category. This is on page 243, by the way, of your textbook. I'm sorry I didn't say that earlier, of the 4th edition of your textbook. So if I'm sure this is in previous editions of the textbook. I can't guarantee that, but I'm pretty sure that it is. And you can look at this yourself. You can see all of the nickel and dime that when you purchase a home, the nickel and dime that you have to pay. Now, some of these are not, some of these you get back, like you have to pay the interest ahead of time on your loan. Well, you got to pay interest anyway, and they're just making you pay it up front. So it's not an additional cost necessarily. There's also, this is reserves deposited with lender, and you have to give them the, you've got hazard insurance. That's your homeowner's insurance. They require that you have, if you have a loan, they require that you have homeowner's insurance, so that if there's a fire, the loan company, the lender is protected, as well as you, of course. Now here is you're paying for mortgage insurance, and if you put down less than 20%, I think that's the correct number, less than 20% of the price of the home, and you have a mortgage for the rest, you will pay mortgage insurance. Once you are above that 20% threshold, that mortgage insurance, sometimes you have to call and tell them to take it away, but it should go away. You would have to pay, however, your property taxes, and they go into this thing that I've mentioned before called escrow, where that money is set aside and your taxes and insurance are paid by the lender. And then there's title charges. You got to pay all these things, and you do have to pay these. Title insurance to make sure that the title's free and clear. There's title inspection. There's recording fees. Anyway, I encourage you to look through here. It's a little bit unsettling to see all these, costs when you worry sometimes about going out to dinner. When you buy a house, it's just like you're bleeding money, and that's the way that goes. So we've talked about closing costs and how that affects the interest rate, and it can affect the interest rate. You've got some problems about that on the homework. Let me see. Sorry, I'm on days like this where it's wrap-up day, I'm bouncing around, sadly for you, trying to make sure I've covered all the bases on the material that we needed to cover in this section of chapters. So what we haven't discussed much yet are things like not a lot. I talked about line of credit a little bit. We're going to talk more about that today. I want to talk about short-term loans a little bit. And let me see some other things. Well, mostly related to the fine details of the remainder of chapter 16. So we're going to cover some short topics. We're going to it's kind of a popcorn sort of, we'll hit this and then we'll hit that. And we're going to cover these not nearly, some more in depth than others, but not nearly to the level of detail that we've covered some of the other materials so far. And it's pretty easy reading, I think, in your text, and I think it's pretty easy understanding, which is why we're skimming it and hitting it pretty quickly. I was going to make some slides, but I decided stay away from the PowerPoint slides a little bit, and we'll talk about this sort of information. Let's talk first about short-term loans. Short-term loans are technically, short-term is less than a year. So a short-term loan is one that you would have for typically less than 1 year. Now, some of you, again, are going to open your own business and you're going to build homes or small commercial dwellings that, I guess it wouldn't be a dwelling, would it? Commercial dwelling probably doesn't match. Commercial building that you may be able to construct in a year. So most homes are built in a year. I have a sister and brother-in-law who are, let's just say they're well-to-do, and their house took more than a year to build. So this short-term loan may not exactly fit that bill for them. But if you do build homes and they're finished in 6 to 8 months, 9 months, you might run into the fact that you could use a short-term loan, and therefore these might be relevant, and you need to understand some things about short-term loans that aren't, again, banks, lenders, they don't lie, and they're not liars, and they're not cheaters. But some of the terms and some of the processes that are followed sometimes can be misleading if you're not up on it. And that's what I want to talk about with respect to short-term loans. The other thing I want to say about short-term loans very quickly is that to be short-term, less than a year, you have to initiate the borrowing, and the loan has to end during your fiscal year. Now, the fiscal year, the tax year, that's wrong. Tax year, not fiscal year. Back up, re-record, erase it, tape over it. During the tax year, so it has to begin and end within the same tax year, which makes these a little more complicated. You will have an accountant, and they'll be able to handle all this stuff for you. It's important that you understand a little bit about what's going on. You're not going to understand the details until you've been in business for quite some time, and it finally, by osmosis, it grows into you. Some of these things can be quite complex, complicated, esoteric. Enough of that. Short-term loan. How does this work? Well, let's. I've written up some things here, and we can look at these rules. So a short-term loan is less than 1 year, and typically simple interest is used. Now, I know that way back I said we're really not going to worry about simple interest, and we're not going to worry about simple interest. This is as opposed to compound interest. But simple interest. You'll see how it works here a little bit. It's not a not a not a big deal. You don't have to necessarily distinguish that. Here's the main thing about a short-term loan. And let me pop this up and draw at the bottom here for just a minute. The main thing about a short-term loan is that, so you borrow money and then you're going to pay back money. That's the deal. Well, I guess you're going to pay back the same amount that you borrowed, but with a short-term loan, we're going to calculate the interest, and the interest is going to be paid up front. So this is the main difference. Is, we went through one of those payment plans for compound interest, and it was the example. I had the spreadsheet. We were paying back $17,000 over 4 months. One of those options was we will pay. We're not going to pay any interest, and we'll pay it all at the end. Well, with a short-term loan, typically the structure is you pay it at the beginning. So we calculate the interest, what that is, and you pay it all at the beginning. There are some, I will call them unscrupulous lenders, who will try to pawn this off in a car loan. And you want to be very careful about that. And maybe sometime we'll work through an example, or maybe I should make a video. And for those who might be interested in seeing this trick, you can watch the video. It's downright ugly. But for a short-term loan, we're only talking about 1 year here. This is not, a 5-year car loan or anything. So, you pay the interest up front, which means they've calculated the interest. You've already paid the interest. So if the quicker you pay off your loan, the higher the effective rate of interest you're paying. That may or may not register with you. Trust me on that. And again, maybe I can put that in this other video too. It's nothing you're going to be tested over. It's just something you need to know for life. How about that? So this amount P here is the same as this amount P here that we ultimately pay off the loan there. And this is the interest that you're going to pay on the loan. So let's go back up here to the rules and regulations. So it is often simple interest. And when the interest is paid up front, that's called discounted. Now, I've used the word discount before and discounted, and it's not exactly the same, right? It's not the same. It kind of is the same while they're using it. It's brought back to the present. That's what discount means. It's brought back to the present. So they would call it your interest is discounted. When you first hear that, you think, hey, I'm getting a discount. No. Sadly, discounted is not good news for a short-term loan. Okay, the interest that you're going to pay, the interest rate, if you will, is, so you take the length of the loan in months. They will give you an APR. And that APR, okay, we'll loan you 12%, 8%, 9%, 6%, whatever the APR is. And remember, that's also the nominal interest rate. When you read the term nominal, and I think it's used, it may be used in questions in the back of the chapter. It might be used in the chapter itself. I don't really recall. But nominal is the APR. Annual percentage rate. They'll give you that, and then you will multiply that by the length of the loan in months divided by 12. So it's like, okay, your interest is going to be, if the length of the loan was 10, it'd be 10/12 or 5/6. So your APR would be, your interest that you pay would be 5/6 of whatever the APR is. So you're paying that APR interest over only the life of the loan. And we'll look, I'm going to work an example here, just a minute. And then the effect, effective rate for the loan period. This is not the annual effective rate. This is the effective rate for example, the 10 months that you are borrowing the money for. That's P divided by P minus I. So this is the you're paying back divided by what you got up front, really. The P minus I, you borrowed P, but you didn't get it all because you paid I, right? You had to end up paying out of pocket the interest rate. So it's that ratio minus 1 to get the decimal for the interest rate. And that's your effective rate for the loan period. And then we can take that if you want to find the APY, or the annual percent yield, the effective interest rate annually, we can find that too, and we will when we look at the example problem. So it's 8:46. We're going to do an example problem, but let's take a short. Let me get my face back up here, just because I missed myself. Let's take a short break, and we'll come back and we're going to work an example short-term loan problem. And we're getting really close to being done. So with this chapter, we may even get finished early in class today. Wouldn't that be great? Anyway, let's take, it's 8:47 according to my computer. Let's take a 5-minute break, 5 minutes, 8:52. We'll be back at 8:52, and we'll get started on that example problem. Okay, 8:52 rolls around and we are back. Let's solve an example problem, short-term loan. And this is, by the way, just as I'm speaking to you, and I know it's a little hard, and maybe I can do this. This is could be a really good problem for a midterm. I'm thinking, because I like these sorts of problems. My joys in life are kind of weird, and this is one of them. This material right here is one of them. In the short-term loans, I really like the problems. So just between you and me, uh, keep that in mind. Okay, so here we go. Here's I'm going to solve it on my. I'm going to draw a picture here, and I calculated these numbers. All these numbers actually I calculated. In a minute, we got it right here with my. I changed. I've got two calculators I like to use. This one is my HP 12C Platinum Financial Calculating Reverse Polish Notation Calculator. Back when calculators first came out, way back, HP came out with they were, to do some very basic stuff, is like $400 for a calculator. Anyway, I got started with reverse Polish notation. I can't stop. So anyway, I use those, but I have a lot of precision on here, and I carried that through. So we're talking about precision. I would encourage you, I could have easily done these calculations in a spreadsheet as well, and I'd encourage you to, keep the precision, and these will maintain precision. Like this one displays whatever you want it to display, but it keeps a lot of digits in there. Make sure you keep those and don't re-enter values. Use your store functions if you don't use reverse Polish notation. If you do, you have a stack. You just keep pushing these things down on the stack, and they're always there for you. Other numbers, if you have a calculator where you have to store these numbers, we'll store them. Don't re-enter them with that truncated decimal and lose precision. Okay, anyway, let's get to the problem. I get sidetracked, I know I do. Okay, we're going to find the effective interest. We're going to find the effective interest for 11 months, and we're going to also find it annually. And we're going to find the APY, the annual percentage yield. We'll find both of those. We have a $250,000 short-term loan. It's an 11-month loan, and the APR is 8%, and the interest is discounted. So once again, this is kind of the standard definition for a loan. The interest is discounted, means that it's charged up front. So we would have just short picture here. We've got 250K, and here at the end of 11 months, out here at 11, we're 250K, and we're going to pay this discounted interest up front here as well. So that's the problem. Our interest rate that we pay. Let me. My marker is dried out for some reason. Let's say interest. The interest. We'll calculate these values just like we had them on the previous screen here. So 11/12, the period over which we have the loan, divided by number of months, times the APR, 0.08. And our I then is 0.0733 repeating decimal. Okay, so that is so it's 7 1/3% for the That's for the 11 months of the loan. That's what our interest rate will be. And the interest that we pay, the capital I, and this is the capital I down here, right? The interest that we pay on this loan is equal to $250,000, the amount we're borrowing, times I, or the 0.07333333. And that makes our interest $18,333.33, and that would, keep repeating out there. But $18,333.33 is the interest that we pay on this short-term loan. And so we borrowed $250 up front, but we got to come up with the $18,000 up front as well to pay the interest. So we're effectively we're only borrowing $231,667. Okay, now let's look at this IA for 11 months. I'm going to just say I11, but it's really I don't know how to label that. Let's just call it I11. And know that it is the effective interest rate for those 11 periods. Remember what the formula was for that. You may not remember, but it is the P, the amount you borrow, is the numerator. The denominator is the 250 minus the interest. That ratio minus 1. And so this number is that 231,66667. That's this value right there. So it's 250,000 over 231,66667 minus 1, and that turns out to be 0.079 for 11 months. So remember, that's 11 months. Interest. And finally, we want to find out what the APY is. That is the annual percentage yield, the effective annual interest rate. And I'm going to have to scooch my, here we go, page up just a little bit. And to find out, remember what the formula, the standard formula for APY. The standard formula for APY was the following: 1 plus APR over C to the C minus 1. And that was kind of a different time and place, right? That formula works, but we're not compounding. We don't have a number of compounding periods such as that. Well, we don't, but we kind of do, in that we're using the 11 months as a compounding period, if you will. And this term right here is where we're going to plug in this number right here. So our APY for us is equal to 1 plus 0.079, and there was some change in there. There was some other digits. You can work it and get those exact digits. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky. The power to which you take this, and that power is going to be 12 over divided by the number of months of the loan, 12 divided by 11. So that will always be the case. Remember, these are loans that are less than 1 year. So you'll always have this in the exponent, and it'll always be 12 divided by the length of the loan, the number of months of the loan, and then minus 1. And when you do all those calculations, and you can do those, you find out that the APY for this loan is 8.7%. So it's and again, you may say, well, it's not a big deal. Well, it's not a big deal, but it's a big deal in that it's almost 1% more than advertised APR. And there's a combination of things that contribute to that, the largest of which is the discount. The fact that you paid your interest up front is discounted is a big deal, and that contributes to the bulk of that, the difference between the APY and the APR. Okay, that's short-term loan example. Like I said, that's there's an example, a nice example in your textbook that I think uses maybe a different number of months, and certainly I hope it does. I'm pretty sure it does. Uses a different number of months, so you can see the calculation, the problem we just worked here, and look at the calculations in the text and compare those and get comfortable with solving those. And like I said, I would be comfortable with solving those at least through next Thursday. And then I don't know what you do. It might show up again on the final, so don't completely forget it. But here's the punchline. Understand short-term loans and the effect that discounting the interest has on your true interest rate. That's kind of the bottom line. When you go to apply for a loan, you want to make sure that you understand what these terms are going to do to you financially. And sometimes when you're operating on a shoestring, these 0.1% can make a huge difference. And of course, every dollar extra that you spend is, if you own your own business, or when you're working for a large company, you're responsible to to your company to get as good a deal as you can and spend as little as you can. That's part of your, we could call it a fiduciary responsibility. And your bosses will appreciate it. And if you're running your own business, you will appreciate it. Every penny, a penny, here's Ben Franklin, right? A penny saved is a penny earned. So that's important stuff. Okay, let's move on, because we're running short on time, and there's just a few things I want to mention to wrap up today. And let me make sure I've got notes. Yep. So I got a couple of pages of just kind of breeze through these very quickly with you. These are easily read in the text. By breezing through doesn't mean they're not important, and also doesn't mean that they won't show up on the midterm, B. So It's because they're really easy reading, and I think you can get through those very well. So let's talk about these few items. Line of credit. Some important things to understand. You know, the line of credit, as we talked about, and you can get one of these with your home loan. If you hear the term HELOC, that's called a home equity line of credit, HELOC. That's a HELOC, is a line of credit you get on your home after you've paid so much of your mortgage, so that you know, if you, let's say you've paid off 40% of your home mortgage, well, then you can get a HELOC quite easily. Be very careful. You could get a HELOC and use that to buy a car, for example. You can do for whatever you want with the money with a HELOC, but boy, don't get yourself in trouble. You know, it's like a second mortgage, and pretty soon you're mortgaged to the hilt and you're struggling. Anyway, the interest is applied to what's called the average daily balance. You can see this calculated in the textbook. And that means that the earlier you pay, the less the interest you pay. And so this is certainly different than the short-term loan, where your interest is charged on the entire amount up front that you borrow. This interest is applied to the average daily balance. Sometimes you are required to keep what's called a compensating balance, and that's typically 10% maybe of the line of credit. And this is set aside in an account that doesn't earn interest. It's for the bank. The bank can use this to loan out. It costs them essentially nothing for those funds, because they don't pay you much or anything for them. And it's a way for the bank to protect themselves. If you know anything about the Federal Reserve, it's kind of like that. So you do have to set aside some funds to protect as kind of semi collateral. And there may be, there isn't always, but there may be a commitment fee, which is a certain percent that charge on the unused balance. So you might have a line of credit of $100,000, and you're only using $20,000 of that. You've only taken $20,000 for some expenses that you've incurred, and you pay that $20,000 back at the given interest rate. But the $80,000 that you haven't touched, you may have to pay a very small interest fee on that. And that's called a commitment fee, and that's so the bank knows that they may have to provide that to you at your request. So that means it's they're not quite as free to loan it out. So that's lines of credit. You have to be cognizant of the agreement, of the contractual arrangement that you have with the lines of credit, and the legal obligations you have with your lender. Lines of credit can be a very good thing. It's just, careful. The fees, as the fees mount up, once again, they raise the effective rate of interest that you're paying on that line of credit. And just like with a house, you can get nickeled and dimed, death by 1,000 cuts. And you just have to be careful. When you need money, you need money, and you can often have to find ways to get that money. Trade financing is something I don't want to go into detail. It's very well described in the book, so I will leave that to you. But organizations do this all the time. I mean, this is like, hey, you pay somebody before you get paid yourself. And when you do that, when you pay before you get paid, that the difference in timing is a cost to you. And you can read about that. Trade financing. You can use credit cards. Credit cards are not evil, but they can become an incredible burden on you if you don't pay those off every month. Because once you don't pay them off and you're charged the interest rate for credit cards, that can be quite high. And also, um, if you miss a payment or don't make a full payment, you're then the interest rates go sky high, and then you're in trouble. So this is dangerous. You can do that if you're a contractor. You go to Lowe's and you buy stuff and put it on the card and have an account at Lowe's or whatever, and you get it paid off at the end of the month. You're fine, but very careful. You can run into big trouble with that. And then, of course, equity financing, which is, hey, we're paying cash for this. That's not a costless way to pay, because you're taking equity, you're taking money that could be invested in another way. So there's an opportunity cost if you participate in equity financing. Doesn't make it bad. It's good financing. It's just that it's not free, and it will cost you. It does cost you something. So so these are other ways that you can, other than loans, direct loans, that you can use for financing all sorts of things in your business. So we're not ending nearly as early as I would have liked, and probably as you would have liked. So, but we are finished for today. I don't see anything in the chat. Checking at the last minute there. Sorry, I missed it last time. I get busy and I got to look for it. So that's it for today. We're finished with chapter 15, 16, and 17. Those are gone. All of this information we covered through today is fair game for the midterm next Thursday. On this coming Thursday, on the, what is that? Is that the 1st, October 1st? We will be, or the, is it 30 days? That's September. Yeah, October 1st. So we'll be starting chapter 1 and chapter 6, or where we're bouncing to next, and we'll pick up there on Thursday. I hope you all have a wonderful couple of days this week, and I'll see you Thursday morning.